Greetings! Today on my Focus RS, I am installing my upgraded rear trailing arms. Here we are then, the two rear trailing arms that we are going to be installing today. So they are of course upgraded, they are nicely refinished. You'll know the story behind these if you've been keeping up to date with my recent videos. So these started off of course as just straight stock trailing arms from my Focus RS. They had been there for a number of years and they were still functional of course, but they were looking a bit rough, a bit of surface rust going on, and of course the bushings, they don't really last forever. Of course they are rubber bushings from factory, so you know, everything was just a little bit tired and in need of, you know, just a refresh, and that is what we have here. But then we also went the extra couple of steps to also upgrade. So the upgrades are extra welds on one side of each of like the rings where the bushings go in and are held, because whenever I was getting these sorted out, I noticed that there was actually only welds on one side, and then on the other side it was like literally just a gap, which, you know, seemed kind of weird to me. So I welded up all the way around on the sort of unwelded side and got that nicely done, and then of course put in the brand new PowerFlex rear trailing arm bushes, which not only look fantastic, which I am sure you will agree, they're going to offer us a nice performance increase. So the differences between the PowerFlex bushes and the stock bushes, of course we mentioned already the stock bushes being rubber. So rubber doesn't last forever, it does degrade over time. Polyurethane, which is what the PowerFlex are, will last much longer, but then you have other benefits as well. In terms of performance then, the polyurethane is not as squishy as rubber, it's less compliant, so you know, the rubber in the stock form is less for performance, more for comfort. Polyurethane is more for performance rather than comfort, but I don't predict that there will be too much of an increase in NVH, and any small increase I think will be negligible and worth it, to be honest. But then the other thing as well is that as you'll see whenever we get them out of the car, the stock rubber bushings have like holes or gaps all the way around, which is again gonna make them even more squishy and compliant, because the rubber can bend into those gaps, whereas here we have solid bushings. So that is the upgrades. Of course we have the nice refinish. This is gloss black. Of course there is a really fine metal flake. It's probably not going to come up on camera, and also not that it really matters either, because you know, we're not going to really see these once they're installed. That's just the paint that I used, but yeah, looking nice, nicely upgraded, and we are now ready to go out to the car and get the installation started. So as you can see, we have the car jacked up, jack stands in place, and underneath here this is the trailing arm on this side. So obviously have the wheels off as well. So there are multiple bolts that we need to remove, of course. It's bolted in 3 up here and 2 back here behind here where we can't really see just yet, but before we get to those, there's a few little fixings that we need to remove that are like connected into the actual arm. So we have some plastic things. We've got like this little thing here, it's like a little Christmas tree, and we've got a couple of other bits like that as well, but we'll get to those in a second. The bigger plastic thing that's fitted in here is this. Now this comes through from the other side, and this is like a little like brackety thing that on the other side, which it's kind of difficult to really see. It's connected here to this thing, which is the sheath for the handbrake cable. So yeah, it's holding that, and then it comes through, it clips in. There's a little plastic clip just right there, but then there's also a little screw, which is this thing that goes through and like sort of goes into the plastic of this, which makes it really solid. So the first thing to do, we can't get this out without taking the screw out, so we need to take the screw out first, and that requires a little 7mm. Being that it's just like a self-tapping screw that is going into plastic, it's not in there very tight at all. There we go. So with that out, that little 7mm screw, we now need to sort of push this little tab right here inwards. That's currently like a little tooth that is holding onto the metal of the trailing arm. So we push that in, and then we sort of slide this piece of plastic slightly forward and then out. If you just use whatever like implement just to pop that in, then we can grab another implement and push it through. So you can see it kind of, if we go at an angle, then we can sort of dip it out and then sort of slide it towards the front. There we go. Okay, so then next up I'll do this little Christmas tree thing. Again, it just needs to really be pushed through. Just push it and then give it a little pull from the other side and that pops out. Similarly then, the one over on this side, I happen to have a cable tie here, so I'll just cut that, get rid of it. And then the Christmas tree thing that we need to do is just sort of in this gap here in the knuckle. It's just right there, just again, exactly the same, just get an implement and push that through. So then there's another little plasticky thing just right here, same sort of deal, we just press it through. There we go. So now we can go after the actual bolts. In order to get access to the two bolts that are like behind this here, we just need to remove this piece of plastic like under tray stuff. So if I switch around to the underside, we can see this is it right here, and this is held in with 3 T30 Torx screws. So one of them is right here, just on the edge of the body work. Then we've got one that's like sort of up this tunnely thing, and then there is another one right here, more towards the front of the car. So they're not in super tight, very similar to the normal under trays. So yeah, T30 Torx. And with those all out, this should just click off. It clicks off because those little red things kind of, you can see the way there's like 2 little prongs, they sort of go into like a slit in the bodywork, and then whenever the screws are in there, they go whoop. So yeah, that clicks out, and we can just sort of set that back out of the way, and now we can see our 2 trailing arm bolts, the 2 main ones right there. So they're now nice and easily accessed. Okay, so for the 2 that were up behind the bit of under tray, we need a 15mm socket and a big extension, and then that allows us to get under the bodywork and use a full-length breaker bar, because they are pretty high torque. So yeah, we need to just get clearance so that we can use our breaker bar and get the turning force needed to loosen them. So this side has this like wiring harness really awkwardly right in the way. Now it's just in a little Christmas tree thing in the chassis here, so what we can do is we can carefully pop it out. Now there is another one up here, which is great. Same thing, little Christmas tree. So now we can like sort of manipulate this out of our way. Okay, that should be those loosened enough for now, so we can go and loosen the others. So moving around then to the other 3 bolts more to the rearward of the car, they need an 18mm socket, and there are 3. So there's 1, two, and then the third here more in the middle towards the front. So yeah, obviously this would be much easier if you know, you were on like a big lift or whatever, and then you could, you know, swing your full length breaker bar underneath here, but it is doable just on with the jack and jack stands. You just have to find the leverage, and yeah, let's do it. So yeah, like a full length breaker bar is going to hit the ground. So yeah, like what I've worked out is just using my normal 1/2 inch ratchet here. I can get it in place, and then I can essentially like stand on it, if that makes sense. I'll show you what I'm talking about now, but you know, I just get more power through my legs than my arms, and that should do the trick. Yeah, so once we have it like sort of loosened, then we just do it with our hands. Okay, so that's all of them, like, you know, like broken, if you will, or like loosened. So now it's just a case of removing them all. I like to break them like that before I remove anything entirely. The nature of the trailing arm, the way it is, like whenever you take like a bolt out, it can sort of like, you know, shift a little bit, which can create like additional tension on the other bolts. So if you haven't broken them already, it could potentially make it even more difficult to break like after you've removed other bolts. So yeah, that's just a tip, you know, like get them loose first and then take them out. So now you can see with those 3 rearward bolts out, you know, the other 2 are still pretty much in place, but we're like loosey-goosey, bouncing around. That's how, you know, bendy the rubber stock bushings are. But anyway, so let's just get those last 2 bolts out, and then we can carefully feed the arm out of here. So before I go and grab the new trailing arm to put in place, I'll talk about the bolts here with regards to getting those back in. So you can see that these have threads all the way to the end, whereas these actually have the threads. These are the 2 forward ones. They have the threads removed for about, what, like 1/2 inch or so. So if you remember what I was saying before taking them out with regards to the tension that the trailing arm is under, essentially what we want to do is get these 3 seated first and then seat these. If we seat these first, it's going to make it really difficult to get these like lined up with the hole, whereas it's not so much of a problem with these ones because they've had a bunch of threads removed. These kind of have it built in that you can go in at a bit of an angle and then pull it around. So yeah, basically these 3, then these 2. So we'll do it a very similar way to taking them off. So I'm going to get these on the threads loosely, then get these on the threads loosely, and then after that we'll start tightening everything up, hand tight first and then with the torque wrench. Opportunity then, now that I've got one here for a little side by side. So obviously this is one of the stock ones, and come over here, we have, well, both of our new ones. So, I mean, obviously these are, you know, fresh. I mean, this has been on the car for a while. Actually, not that long, because I did swap out my original trailing arms, which is what these are, for like brand new, just Ford's OEM ones. So these have actually only been on the car for maybe a year, maybe a little more than a year, and you can see there's already, you know, some rust forming here, in particular around the bushing. This is part of the bushing, as you can see here, which isn't so great. Condition of the rubber, I mean, again, after only a bit over a year, the rubber is fine. I mean, it maybe looks a little, maybe slightly sort of twisty, but I mean, I don't even know if that's normal. But you can see what I was saying there. If I move this over to a lighter background, you can see those gaps. I mean, there's loads of gappage right through. You can see right through the stock rubber bushing. But there you go, that's what one of the stock trailing arms looks like in comparison to our nice new ones. It's probably worth mentioning as well, if you're wondering or curious or confused about which one is which, like what way around do the actual trailing arms go. Basically, you can see that there's like a bulge right in the middle, whereas on the other side, that bulge is like, you know, the opposite. So the basically bulge side towards the outer of the car. So yeah, let's get this up and in place. And I will put some blue thread locker on the bolts. Okay, so that is all of the bolts seated. So now I will get them all hand tight, just using the regular wrench, and then I'll grab the torque wrench after. Okay, torque wrench time. So the two forward bolts, they are higher torque, so they require 129 foot-pounds, which is equivalent in Newton meters to 175.4, I believe. So I'm just going to go 176. So yeah, I'll get those done first. Okay then, so our three more rearward bolts, they need to be 85 foot-pounds, which in Newton meters is equivalent to 115.6, I think. So I'm just going to roll that to 116. Alright, cool, so that is all of our main bolts torqued down and done. So now we just need to get all these little clips and stuff back in place. So yeah, this line that has the three little sort of just Christmas tree things is literally just the opposite of removing them, just lining them up and pushing them in. Very simple. Okay, then we need to sort out the bigger handbrake cable one, which we'll do now. So it's pretty much just going to be the opposite of taking it out. So we want to kind of angle it through here initially, and then sort of like wiggle it sort of in and also towards the rear of the car, just to get it all the way through and to get that little like clippy thing to poke out and then to start sort of holding onto the arm. Ew, there we go. Now you just go and grab the little screw that goes in here. So we haven't quite got that wee clip in there yet, but I think that may be it now. But if we just hold that, we can see the hole on the other side. Well, maybe you can't on cam, but I can. So yeah, we'll just get that in there and give it a little tighten. There we go. And of course, don't forget to clip in those little Christmas tree clips from the electrical harness. Okay, looking good. So that is it for that stuff. The only thing left to do on this side is to get our little piece of under tray back in place, and that will be this side done. There we are then, that is this side done. All I have to do now is to go over to the other side and repeat the process. I won't bother showing you that just because it is literally the exact same process. So yeah, I'll get that done and then it will be installation complete. Well, there we go then, that is the installation finished on the nicely renewed, refurbished, upgraded rear trailing arms on my Focus RS. I think they look great. That really pops in there, that nice new sparkly shiny black finish. Not that we're going to see that, but anyways, yeah, the installation not too difficult. Obviously being not too far off the ground, just with jack and jack stands, it does make certain things a little bit more difficult or awkward, you know, getting like the enough turning force to get bolts in and out, but ultimately it is doable. And yeah, I'm very happy with the job and I hope you like it as much as I do. All that is left for me to do is to put the wheels back on, jump in the car and go and enjoy it. So yes, I will leave it there for now. Thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Please do like, share and subscribe for more content to come very, very soon. Thank you once again, goodbye.